Before we get started today, one of the things that came up in our conversation, as it usually does with birth educators, is that we want you to get educated before you know you need to get educated. And one of the things that I created, the Oh My God, I'm Pregnant class, is for that exact reason. During those first few months when you're kind of keeping things hush-hush and you're excited, but you're anxious and you're nervous and you're scared, that's when we want to connect with you. I'm going to let you click the link below to see the topics that I cover, but know that when you start managing your fears, finding out if you have the right provider, looking around your community for better support, you're going to have a calmer, more connected pregnancy. If you connect earlier to your baby, you feel more solid as a parent. That's what this whole course is about. I'm excited to have you meet Latoya. Let's get started with today's show. Welcome to the Birth Education Center podcast, hosted by myself, Care Messer, an entrepreneur, birth educator, and doula. My team and I want to help you discover your options in birth and postpartum, how to find your voice, and how to use that voice to navigate our maternal healthcare system. You and your baby are not just a number. This information includes doulas too. Now let's get started. I have a great guest today and a great show for you. This is the first in our educator series, and I have someone from the opposite side of the country as me. Her name is Latoya Murray Johnson. She is going to introduce herself, but I want to tell you, I found her on Instagram. One of the things that I love about social media is how we can connect and learn from one another. And I first became her stalker, basically, and drank everything that was coming out of her. She is a master orator, and I have learned so much from her and have been able to collaborate on different things. She's also helped me do a portion of the Reduction 101 class that I have online. And it has been a true blessing to get to know her. She's even come and visited me when she's been here in San Diego. So I would like to introduce you today to Latoya. She is the founder of the Birth Impact. She has her own private doula business, and she's phenomenal. So what we're going to talk about today is what she's experiencing in birth classes, what she's experiencing as a doula, which is why it makes her such a good educator, and all things birth, because we just talk about vaginas when educators get together. So,
hey, beautiful.
Latoya, please introduce yourself.
Sarah, I have my own story about you too. I talk about you all the time. I'm like, who is this lady that is literally sponsoring people for my class? I haven't even met her. She is an angel. She an angel? Where coming from? So yeah, you are a gem, honey. But yes, I'm Latoya Murray Johnson. I am the owner of DoulaView LLC and the founder of the Birth Impact out here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am homeschool mom of 3. I'm crazy birth nerd, all of that. I absolutely love serving the birth community. I believe that no matter who you are, no matter what walk of life, if you love birth, if you love all things birth and want to support those in that journey, then you are my people. And that has not failed me no matter where I go, no matter who I talk to. Those who serve in birth are special people and kindred spirits. So I appreciate the part that everyone plays in this. But yeah, so that's me.
Absolutely agree with that. And we teach different methods. I teach hypnobirthing. You teach Lamaze. We obviously add our own spin to that. Tell me what brought you to Lamaze. Like, what was the drawing factor?
Okay, well, that's a tricky question because I was a doula before I knew what a doula was. I was that support system for my family and friends, the person who had studied and just knew all the ins and outs because it was an infatuation. It was something that I was enamored with. I loved it. That's what I did in my spare time. So as I grew older, I just became that natural support, that pocket pregnancy girlfriend. So I went to a Lamaze class with one of my dear friends, and the instructor was also a doula. And I'm just loving the information she's giving and providing these mothers and fathers in the room. And I'm like, I could do that. I could teach people. I want to get Lamaze certified. I'm going to do that. And then she said, yeah, and I'm also a doula. And, well, what is a doula? And then she just starts listing the things. And you know how when you hear something that's you and it's just hitting you like daggers, like slap you in the face. This is you. Where have you been? Go do it. So my friend looks at me and she's like, if you don't go do whatever it is that she did to get there, that's you, Latoya. So that's how I came to Lamaze, that I've made it my own. And over the years, even my doula work, you your gift truly makes room for you. It grows, it transforms into something. So I'm appreciative for the platform and all that it has provided. But that's how I came to Lamaze. I was introduced to it along my doula path without me even knowing that I was a doula.
Yeah. And when it's the weirdest thing, because once we get exposed to it, it wakes up what I think is dormant that has been there all along. So tell me what the temperature is in the birth work in Georgia. Tell me about where people giving birth, what the state is like, what's actually happening in that area of the country.
Unfortunately, Kara, I live in one of the worst states to give birth. One of the absolute worst states. We were like number 50 on the infant mortality, maternal mortality. I think we've bumped it up to maybe 48. I think so. Honestly, it can definitely get much, much better. We do have the majority of what we call baby factory hospitals that are well known. And to those who aren't informed, it becomes, I had this type of baby at this hospital. And I was, prestigious. I was at this hospital. I gave birth here. Not knowing that hospital has the highest C-section rates, has the highest malpractice insurance for the doctors. We have those hospitals. And then we have gyms within those hospitals that are going against the grain, trying to make a difference. We have some mother-friendly hospitals, very few, I would say, with low C-section rates that actually see mothers. So as a doula, I try to infiltrate and make relationships and get familiar with that for my clients, and also for those providers to shed light on where they are and support them and encourage them. Because unfortunately, what I've realized is the more that you go against the grain to support a mom's ability to advocate for herself, you are bullied, you are ostracized, you are threatened as a provider. And I want to encourage them that they are seen, they are appreciated, and bring those mothers that can appreciate, understand their value to them so that their colleagues can see, yes, something needs to change, and illuminate those gems so that we can also shed light on what's wrong with negative birth culture in the hospital. Yeah, like I said, I'm going to go down some rabbit holes and it all intertwines, but we have, I think, 2 birth centers, one in Atlanta, I think one we have in Augusta or Macon. Very little traffic as much as, they say booked because they can only take so many people. It's not available to everyone. And then that's also if you can afford it, those are new. Last couple years new. And then include 2 years of COVID, and that's just like, it doesn't even count. So I know mothers who are on my side of the state that will drive an hour and a half to Chattanooga, Tennessee for their birth center. And some people come and stay in hotels weeks before their due date so that they can get to certain hospitals, because here in Georgia, you hear about a lot of the major cities, but the majority of the state is rural. The majority of the state is country. And there's hospitals here that don't even do OB care. They don't even do birth services. So take those hospitals out and you have a mother that her doctor is about an hour and a half away at least, unless she can afford a home birth midwife. And don't let me get started on that crap in this state, where they're trying to strip the option of home birth via threatening our midwives. Women, we don't need anything stripped away from our options when we are already in the deficit. And in Georgia, first of all, help us to stop dying first when it's preventable. The majority is preventable. Let's increase our birth standards, increase the birth numbers, increase our rating as a state, as a whole, before you start telling us what options we don't have, what's best for us, how incompetent home birth midwives are. How about you stop that hospital from being an F rating before you say who's incompetent?
I always wonder, too, when are we going to put a human face on these women that are giving birth that are losing their lives?
When we can take off the dollar sign for a minute. When we can stop fearing that, and I know it's 2 sides to that, and there's a way to play devil's advocate, but when we are providers that are well-meaning, aren't so bombarded by medical malpractice, when the system as a whole gets fixed, because they won't have a quality of life if they can't schedule C-sections for tens of thousands of dollars at a time. So there's two sides to that. But yes, we have to fight for it. We have to fight to be seen. We have to make ourselves known.
Well, and I want to touch on something you said, because we experienced that same thing in San Diego. It's a prestigious hospital to give birth at. It's the most beautiful hospital. They have the prettiest birth rooms, right? Whereas birth workers, we know the culture of that hospital. We know the C-section rate. We know the induction rate. We know the pressure the families are going to feel. We have people coming up from Mexico City to have babies here because they don't want a cesarean, because the cesarean rate's very high in their country. So they come here, but they want to go to the prettiest hospital. And they're so excited that they chose this hospital. And I'm like, actually, you want to be in that system, but let me bump you to the hippie hospital where it's going to be probably the kind of service that you want to avoid a C-section, or at least cut down the risk of it. But we're trained to look at the most beautiful place to give birth instead of actually what's really going on there, because it's the birth experience that you want to be beautiful. Who frick cares what the floors look like? Who cares what the grounds look like? What is the birth experience that you want? You need to check those C-section rates. You need to check the induction rates. You need to understand that, which is why we want you in class early so we can talk to you. I want you, as soon as you're pregnant, to call a birth educator. I don't care where you are in the nation. As soon as you're pregnant, that's your first call. And call 3 of them. Call Lamaze, call Bradley, call hypnobirthing, call whoever is teaching in your area and say, tell me which hospital you would choose to give birth at. You know, are they even doula friendly? If they're not doula friendly, that tells you a lot about that hospital and the culture there. That is so much more important than how close that hospital is.
And you got to think about where that conditioning comes from. Why do we look at the shiny, prestigious, this is safer for me? And the history of birth tells it all. Where women lost the confidence to give birth in the ability of our bodies, the innate ability. Like, we don't question whether or not we can take an effective poop unless we have an issue with it. We don't question our monthly cycles. We don't question the fact that we had a baby 3 days ago and now our boobs feel like rocks and they're engorged. Like, oh, do I need somebody to help me with this? No, our bodies know what to do, but we are not educated on that fact. We are not educated about the miracle of who we are. And honestly, if we just impute into women and their support systems literally how fearfully and wonderfully made you are, if we just broke everything down, you would leave that class like, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? I appreciate your service. But at the end of the day, I came into this space a whole grown woman. And that doesn't change when I cross the threshold of a hospital. You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I love childbirth education. It's very transformative and it's not all created equal. So you do have to decipher who it is and why it is you desire certain classes. I'm just going to say it. Can I say
Absolutely.
it, Kara? Find you childbirth educator outside of the hospital.
There is a difference when you are not teaching for the system that is completely actually designed how it's supposed to be, but it's completely broken. There is a difference, because I can say anything on the outside of those walls with nobody saying, don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. Nobody wants you to be an autonomous woman when you walk through those doors.
Because you have to then serve them in every sense of the word. I can have an air of service. How are you doing today? But when push comes to shove, when the rubber meets the road, I want to be the one driving. I want to tell you what it is best for you. And unfortunately, that God complex has to be broken with respect. It's not saying not to honor providers, doctors, nurses, and everyone that brings an expertise of extreme study. Study, keyword, study, not absolute. Study. And we're still trying to figure out the miracle that is. If you could just impute what's in your head and put it in each and every client, each and every person, so that they will go in not fearful. You do not go into the space combative and with a combative mindset. You don't go in there, everybody's out to get me, but you can have a cunning approach that has wisdom, that realizes I can't serve if I'm kicked out of this hospital. That's wise. It's just using wisdom. I know how to get my point across without being direct at this provider.
Absolutely. It's a delicate, there is a line there, right? Of I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but I am going to be respectful in expressing what can be done.
Not afraid to be that gatekeeper. Thus doula work, y'all.
One of the things that you say we're coming into birth, we're coming into this hospital as a grown-ass woman. And I think a lot of us do not know that. We haven't been respected as women. We haven't been respected as adults, but we've graduated from college. We've got our own jobs. We pay our car notes. Like, we actually do adult things. But when it comes to the medical arena, our healthcare, we would have more advocacy if we had a cancer diagnosis than if we were pregnant. If we had a cancer diagnosis, like there's something wrong with our arm, and that first doctor says we're cutting it off, there's no way to save it, we're cutting it off, I bet 9 out of 10 of us would get a second opinion on that before we let them lop off our arm. But when it comes to pregnancy, and the seeds have been dropped from the very beginning about, wow, that baby's looking big at 20 weeks, and we might need an induction, and that's been dropped along the way. By the time we get to the end, if we have no education and we haven't researched or gotten a second opinion or looked into that, we blindly follow, and then we wonder why XYZ happened and why we're so unhappy with our birth experience. We have to start taking that autonomy seriously earlier and get the second opinions and get educated. I know we're scared of it because we don't understand it, and sometimes we want to bury our heads. You can't do that and have a good experience and advocate for your baby because this is their birth, which is why we're always on our soapbox about get into a birth class early. As soon as you're pregnant, talk to an educator. I will tell you, it squashes fears and it really helps you feel more autonomous and more confident. And you're going to need that confidence and autonomy as a parent.
I totally agree with you. I tell my clients, my doula clients, we do a session where I'm like, okay, what are your fears and your concerns? Tell me everything. And as they come along your journey, I want to know them. I don't want you to be sitting on the toilet and allowing it to fester in your mind and nothing's too big or too small. Because when you address a fear with information, you either realize that fear is what that acronym says, false evidence appearing real, and you can kind of throw it out the window. Or if it's something of true concern, you can make a plan. Plan A, plan B, plan C. And you see it clearly. Yeah, you might have some anxious moments because it's an unknown situation and you have to go through it. But when you are able to get information, like this is how I would handle back labor. This is how I would handle if they start asking me about induction. If my blood pressure is high, what's too high? What's just a standard of what they will tell me is too high? And do I have a negotiating factor? Are there other alternatives? Can I say, okay, well, I am not comfortable with induction right now. I am a VBAC mama, and that is a no-go because it's repeat C-section for me. Can I negotiate coming in a couple days, doing a test, maybe going home, taking my blood pressure? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, this is my body. It's mine. I have to go home with it. I have to deal with the repercussions of everything. I have to deal with it. So let me make the decision on whether I'm comfortable, because I just had an argument with my spouse or my mother and she really pissed me off. And I did it right before I came to this doctor's appointment. So I'm pretty sure that my blood pressure was higher than it should have been. I know you're freaking out about it, but I have deeper wisdom as to why it could possibly. So stop the induction talk, please. Stop telling me I'm going to kill my baby right now. And let me go home, calm down, take my blood pressure. If I have then evidence that convinces me, I will make an informed decision and appreciate your expertise. And having that is just getting expectant parents, mothers, to that spot to where they can confidently say, without going in feeling like it's a war, because that brings anxiety too. I'm going to have to come in guns blazing. They're going to try to attack me. No, honestly, honey, nobody can do anything to you that you don't want them to do. And they don't have to do anything until you understand why and agree to it. It's called informed consent. It's a right. So this is another thing. You learn and equip yourself in a childbirth class. You learn your rights. You get that foundation underneath you that helps you to confidently and adequately advocate for yourself. You go into that space and you use the acronym we love to use, BRAIN. You know how to ask for the benefits, the risks, the alternatives. Follow your intuition. And then you're like, I don't agree with any of that. I'm going to go home. If I go home and I don't do anything about this right now, what does that look like? Let's go over that plan, because that's the part of the buffet that I'm going to be eating right now. Have the buffet, the risks and the benefits, and then choose.
And I want to highlight what you said about deep wisdom, because you know your body better than anybody else. You know your circumstances better than anyone else. You know where you're weak. You know where you're strong. And if you feel weak all over, you have a whole community here to build you up, help you gain confidence and support you in your decision making. Because we do feel like we're going up against a lot of white coats. I feel like when we can get people into a birth class, or when we can get them educated just a little bit at the beginning, it sets them up for success the whole time. They know how to keep their blood pressure down. They know how much protein to eat. They know how to keep their stress level down. They know to start taking time to pray or meditate or take alone time with their baby and practice the resting part, because that really comes in handy during the postpartum phase when you are sitting under a baby for hours and feel like, I can't get up. I can't do the dishes. I'm so tired. And yeah, but if you've practiced it during pregnancy, it not only makes your pregnancy better, but it's gotten you used to what is going to be 100% of the time as soon as that baby comes. And it's a much easier transition for you. Tell me what the number one fears are.
First, they usually are just fearful of the unknown. I don't know what I don't know. And that's a weakness for me too. If I feel ill-equipped and I have to face something, and I'm like, think about COVID. Oh, this is prime example. Okay. What medicines do we take? Do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? Do we social distance? Do we not? Can I go to this event? Do I not? Am I eating inflammatory things? The anxiety that the whole world was in, so think about that when a parent is going into, especially the first time, you're not only thinking about the well-being of your body, you're thinking about the growth of this baby, the birth of the baby, the well-being of the baby. How am I going to be as a parent? How do I manage what I see on social media? I have the happy mama that's giving birth in the rainforest, and I have the mama over here with the horrific C-section. And then I have the mamas over in Brazil that get them like it's cosmetic surgery. You know what I mean? So how do I decipher what's best? People are saying, I would never have a vaginal birth. Why do you put yourself through that? So it's like you're trying to navigate all that. So I have parents that are like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know where to begin, but this is a life-altering thing. Help me. Then, especially in my situation here in Georgia, when I come across women of color, that's a whole nother level of anxiety. And Kara, when I tell you, it doesn't matter who you are. I have served the lower income mother of 3 who has no insurance or anything, and 3 baby daddies, and goes in there, is treated the same as the CDC doctor that I serve. The top real estate agent, celebrity, they go in with the same fears. I do want to add to this, Kara, and this is where I differ from the whole racial white coat, white man. There's another layer to that. Don't put white face on it alone. It's a culture in the hospital. I firsthand see the shocked face on the nurses and some doctors when a person they didn't picture having a doula walks in like, wait, what? Like that, the immediate, like that doesn't look right. Oh, crap. Okay. And then I see the difference in treatment from the historic Black doctor who's been there for 40 years, 30 years, that nobody questions, comes in. This is real, okay? Tells you you're crazy for wanting a natural birth while his hands are inserted into your vagina, doing a rough vaginal exam, saying, you can't even handle this, and you're trying to have a natural birth, and then turns to me, and on the way out, I'm like envisioning just slapping him upside the head when I said him. And he turns to me and said, if you could get hurt and have a natural birth, you're good. That doctor didn't even make it. thankfully, because he didn't need to be in the room. And that's long story short, that mom endured abuse from nurses. Literally, the baby is now descending into the birth canal, about to crown. And because this doctor's not here, there's 2 nurses on either side of her legs, closing her legs, shoulders, not pushing her legs even. They're literally trying to vice grip her legs together so that the baby doesn't come out before the doctor gets here.
And that's one of the things as doulas and as birth educators, we see a lot that goes on into a birth room that when we don't want to intimidate or scare or put more fear into a family, there are a lot of things we have to build into our education so that that does not happen to you and that you know how to handle if there are whispers of it, which is another reason we say, please have an advocate with you. Please have somebody that you hired or have bartered with or whatever, the importance of having a doula in those situations, in those hospitals with providers like that. Our whole goal with education, our whole goal as doulas and birth workers, midwives, is to prevent birth trauma. Because not only does that stay with you forever, but your baby.
And you hear the things that happen in the hospital, but experiencing it brings a whole nother level of rawness, shock, and just, you can't ignore it. So I honestly don't bring up race a lot because honestly, we do live in still one of the greatest countries and you can do whatever you put your mind to, period. The thing is, a lot of people lose their fierceness with victim mentality. That's my whole thing. You can observe and say, okay, that's not right. But you can also invoke that nobody's going to change my destiny. You're just not. You know what I mean? You don't have that power and I'm not giving it to you. So that is something that I really love to support. And I also bring to my classes, no matter who you are. That's why you equipped yourself. That's why you analyze and know your surroundings, know your environment. Don't go in ignorant. Ignorance is not bliss. Willful ignorance is stupid. Just get informed and it totally can transform the trajectory of any birth. Yeah, those are just a few of the fears that clients come or people come to my classes with. And then, of course, tearing and what if I have a breech birth, and all the things.
What if I poop? You are going to poop. Just you are going to poop. Let's embrace the rabbit poops that will come out of your body. It's not a log. It's just going to be rabbit poop and it's fine. I'll clean it off your butt. It's not a problem.
Workers, we get excited when we see it. You are pushing, right? There's about to be a baby here. Go. Nobody is worrying about that. And your beloved, your partner, your dad, whoever is there, they love you enough to forget about it. Okay.
Babies are coming out when there's poop emerging and we're totally okay with that. Puke, poop doesn't even faze us anymore. All of it. Exactly. So tell me how you take fearful couples and bring in the autonomy, teach them how to be confident and also trust their bodies in the process, because you and I know how powerful listening to your body is, because you'll know when you need to switch up plans.
Well, first, I get to know them better. I understand what their fears and doubts are. I make sure individually that I can impute what they need specifically into the class. So for moms, it's going from the beginning of birth, making birth familiar to them. Because 9 times out of 10, the main issue with fear in pregnancy and birth is that we don't know anything outside of the movies about it. You know what I mean? We don't know about the system that everybody keeps talking about. We don't know about the bodily function. I've had women that have had 4 children and still don't know anything about their bodies in the process of birth. So making that familiar to them, walking them through what's going on and how wonderfully their bodies. First, I'm like, first of all, you're sitting in my class growing lungs and hearts and stuff. You're not even trying because there is an innate wisdom in you, because your body knows what it's doing. So that kind of is a cool thing. Everybody's sitting there, yeah, I'm growing some lungs and the digestive stuff. So that's one thing. I find that dads, especially, if we as women got to learn about birth, what do we expect them to know? What? So giving them the game plan of what they're supposed to do. How do they coach or comfort or address certain issues? Translating what certain sounds may be, certain actions may be, what to do, not to do, what to say, not to say, all those things, making it familiar for them so that they can confidently be in their position, because that's the fear of I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. This is not my area. I'm a man. What do I know? So making it to where it's more of a protective role, because that's the role that men play in their wives and their partners' relations in that space, and they're protecting their babies. So when you go in, daddy, during the golden hour, there's going to be a little cord hanging there. You might want to just give it a little squeeze, see if it's still pulsating. It's a really cool experience if you're up to it. But it also allows you to protect that space and not to allow anyone to clamp or cut that cord until it's done pulsating. So explaining the whole process of how the placenta works, how that cord, the cool and mysterious Wharton's jelly that just disappears and goes into where we don't know. So it's like explaining all of that brings them into the world that they are to protect and respect and understand. So that takes some of the mystery away from it. Taking the mystery and the taboo away from it can help them be more confident, less fearful, feel more prepared. Okay, I got it. So now that you got it, guess what we're going to do? We're going to plan for your birth. What do you want? What don't you want? So just making sure that my classes are all encompassing, yet very specific to my clients' needs can help them prepare and plan, which helps to alleviate some of the fear and the doubt that they have, give them perspective and let them know what their role is. But yeah, no, helping them just prepare for plan A, plan B, the what ifs, what I want. And also the main thing that I find we need to protect as birth workers and educators is protecting against perfection, thinking that the plan is cement, that it is not going to change, that if I have to deviate away from this, I have failed. You know what I mean? It is just a plan. We have to put emphasis on preparation and the ability to navigate unknown terrain confidently. That's the purpose of the plan. So we don't go from point A all the way to point Z without knowing we got all these other options in between that we can confidently navigate to see what our birth is supposed to look like, what our path is supposed to look like, so we don't have questions afterwards.
Plans help you be flexible because you've already thought out ahead of time. Like I'm type A, so I have 25 plans, right? But just knowing that, I can still switch it up and create a plan that wasn't even there because I have the education behind it. And when we don't have any education, we literally are, I don't want to say ready for the slaughter, but we kind of are, because we can't rationally make any kind of decision because we have no basis. We have to have that foundation. And you learn that in class. And I know we're scared and we think, I just want it over with. I'm like, I know, but you know, it could be a really beautiful, sexy experience. Like just like Latoya, what you were just talking about, those parents develop connection when they have a game plan. And they've had conversations about being parents, and they're learning to navigate what are our choices and how do we communicate effectively, because there's going to be a baby in their home pretty soon. You learn so many of those good basic connection concepts and how to negotiate with your partner in a birth class. And, you know, every time I have a class, I try and get a hold of my students individually ahead of time and find out what their needs and fears are so I can kind of create that curriculum for, you know, all 8 couples, kind of blend it all together. And the one thing I absolutely love is when first week, everyone's got deer in the headlights, right? They're nervous. They're kind of anxious. I'm sure there's some sweaty palms in there. And we're going to talk a lot about vaginas today, guys. But by class 5, the partners are like, do I need no B? I'm going to catch my baby, right? Their confidence level is so different because they have education. They've had a dry run on birth labor rehearsal and positions, and they feel like it's not a mystery anymore, and I'm not scared of it anymore. It makes such a huge difference, and I don't know how to get them into class earlier, but I'm sure you see the difference too when they come in and then after 5 or 6 weeks, what the heck?
That's been the clash with me because I do have a doula business and I include my childbirth education specifically in that too. I see the benefits of people who know I'm a doula and they hire me early on. I book up very early now, so they usually like pregnancy test. Hey, Toya, you know what I mean? And so I get them pretty early and that's great. But the thing is, I also only take a few clients a month. And my childbirth classes are like, okay, how do I express the importance of getting you here? How do I draw you in outside of what I do on social media? And that's why I do so much on social media, Kara. And it's even gotten to the point where I was like, I don't do anything else. Like, I don't even go on social media a lot outside of just posting stuff on my page pretty much. And I can't stop that because I have a passion for it. And I see it has such a broad and wide reach and span of people who now get this information. Okay, I'm not going to cry, but I'm going to tell you a story real quick, okay? And I'm lying because I'm a crier, so I'm trying not to. There is this young lady in Freeport, South Africa, and I have many stories like this, and this is how the birth impact came to be. But she said, I have to tell you about my birth. I just gave birth to my baby yesterday, and it was in a comment. I don't know how I saw her comments, but she said, we need to talk on WhatsApp. I need to tell you how you affected my birth. So I meet with her on WhatsApp. We're talking, and she said, she's going through her story. And she said, where I come from in Free State, is it Free State, Freeport? I think it's Free State. They do not respect women's decision. A lot of the midwives here can be very cold, and especially for unmarried women. She's like, and impoverished, you go to the general hospital and you are cycled through probably C-sections and they don't care. So she said, we also give birth in wards. It's not just a room. It's with multiple people. And she said, I knew after looking at your page for the months of my pregnancy, I took in so much and all this information. She's like, you don't understand. When I went into labor, I knew seeing all the pictures on your page that of the beautiful home births and all the supported women. I knew that wasn't in the cards for me. I knew that wasn't going to be my experience. She was like, but I did learn and I gleaned. And she's like, when I went into labor and I knew I went into labor, I went to the hospital. They wouldn't even tell me how dilated I was. They just kept telling me I was opening up. They would give me no information. She was like, and every time I felt a new sensation or something happened, something you posted flashed in my mind. She's like, you told me laboring and staying in upright position, listening to my body, going with my body's urges, knowing that being calm and confident in my ability will help the process move more smoothly. So I was moving around. I remember that you said the toilet was dilation station. So there was hardly anybody in this ward. So I was able to go in the bathroom by myself and lock the door. She said something in me just wanted me to lock the door so nobody would come in. And she's like, I was able to do that. Nobody was there. And I sat on the toilet for the longest time. The contractions started getting harder and I got fearful when I started feeling the baby come down. So I was about to call for help and I stood up and there was something in me that just didn't allow me to do it because I didn't feel safe if they were to come into this room. She's like, and then something else flashed in my mind. And she's like, I just followed what my body wanted to do. The floor was cold. I was hot. So I literally laid on the floor. She's like, I was on my side. The tub was at my feet. I lifted my feet up, one of my feet over the tub just for support. And she's like, I then started to feel my baby crowning. And then something else that you had posted flashed in my mind about when a baby crowns, that you can gently allow the baby to emerge. You breathe through it, allow her to stretch you. And she's like, you were literally speaking to me in that moment. And I heard that it's okay. Just let her come down. This is my baby. Tell her it's okay. It's okay. And she was like, I felt her. I was breathing. And she was like, and she came out and she's like, I even had another part where I was going to call for the doctor, but she was like, no, because then I would be erratic and I'd be yelling and I'm not calm. I need to stay calm. She said, I was able to feel my baby come out. And she's like, don't worry. She didn't come out on the floor. She was on my thigh. It was okay. And she's like, she came out and then I put her to my chest and then I called the doctor. And she said they were absolutely mad. They were furious with me. They said, you came to the hospital just to have the baby by yourself. And she was like, I told them I just wanted to change my pad and the baby came out. She said, but I wanted to encourage you and let you know I had to talk to you that even though you weren't here physically with me, you were with me. Girl, I was bawling. I was bawling, but that fueled so much in me. She's like, I didn't have the birth that those women have that I've seen on your page, but I created my own space.
She had the birth.
So when I tell you,
wow.
And then, and I have to tell you how you are a gem. Okay. Because this woman, y'all, I need y'all to hear me about this gem over here in San Diego. Okay. Woman reached out. She says she stalks me or anything. She's been one of the greatest gifts and encouragements to me because she reached out to me and a stranger and was like, I want to support. I believe in what you do. I want to help women tenure class. We need more birth workers. We need our doulas trained better. We need this. And I believe in you. You guys don't, and some of you may understand, but you just don't understand what that means to someone who is striving to build off of passion alone. It means so much. And then that act of kindness and support from a fellow sister in the birth world, it then trickles down to those who are now receiving the gift of what she's planted and yet have not met. She has gifted me with rebozos that I have then encouraged midwives who are gems. So there's this one rebozo you gave me, is very colorful. And I don't know, I think it might have been a gift to you, but I'm not giving all my rebozos away. But this one I had to. And forgive this, these birth stories are gems. So there's this one lady, she's a midwife, and she's at one of those hospitals I don't really ever refer out to. But I walked in there after a very stressful event with my client, and I was like, oh, there's so many things we can do, but the system is really not helping. Her family's not even helping the situation. And this nurse came in, they didn't believe in her family was like, why does she have a doula? Or she's listening to the doula more than she's listening to me. They're being discouraged. Would you just go ahead and get the induction? Just go ahead and let them do this. Just go ahead. Why are you doing this? Adding stress. And this young midwife comes in, the one that goes against the grain, comes in and she's like, I smell the essential oils. My friend is here, you know? And then, you know, baby's heart rate's doing something funky. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to need to get my epidural client in a different position. We got to shake this baby, get this baby. And she's like, yeah, do your thing. So I get my rebozo out and I start doing different things to help baby reposition. And this midwife was so excited. This is rare, y'all. So excited about what other options I'm being able to provide while she's looking at the heart monitor to see if the baby's responding in the way. And she's, I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing. And then she's like, can I help you? Can I help you do what you're doing? You know, can I shake the apple tree too? So literally this midwife is on the other end. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can come help. And she is over. We're both over my client's butt. Like, this is great. We're making a difference. And she's being so encouraging and is so excited. And I had a moment. And this is where I just saw that ripple effect, Karen, from the love that you show, from the passion that you have, reach across the country to this midwife through the Birth Impact. And bless her to keep going against the grain. You are a gem. We need you. So I got my Cricut out and I put her name on that rebozo and I put a gem of the Birth Impact. We appreciate you in this community. And I said, this rebozo belongs to you. This is yours. You need to use this for mothers that are in the same situation. They need you. And I just wanted to give you that flower, show you the flowers of what your passion, your love, genuine, has started to plant seeds and grow in so many ways. And that is just one way that you have been a blessing. So stay encouraged, my sister.
Thank you. That makes me cry because I've had so many women do the same thing to me as a birth worker. And we shouldn't be in competition with each other. We should be encouraging. We should be loving, supporting, uplifting, because if we're at each other's throats, they have us right where they want us. And one of the things that we teach and train in the doula training is you may not get hired, but what you said in that prenatal interview is the gem that they keep. And so always go into every interview with one specific gift for that particular parent with what you see the need. Like, let your intuition be your guide and gift them that little information. Because I've had women say, you know, oh, we interviewed all these 3 doulas and we hired so-and-so, but at the birth, this is the one piece that popped into my mind, just like that woman in South Africa, right? It was like she was speaking to me and I immediately remembered, oh yeah, knees together, push with my knees together, let the baby emerge. And it was that one piece. She only needed to be there for that, but look at the impact she had. And she never knows. She may never know that she had that impact. Because when you go in with service and an open heart, oh my gosh, sorry. It changes everything because we have, I believe, different contracts with different people. And I said, I will meet you in your hour of need. You said you will meet me in my hour of need. I don't remember that now, but my instincts, if I'm following my gut and my intuition, I'm never going to be wrong about that. And just like I trust other people aren't going to be wrong about that with me either. I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about being a birth educator, as compared to being a doula. I help one client at a time as a doula, but as a birth educator, I've got 8 families, right? And then they talk to other families, and then they talk to other families. And it's one of the most rewarding things. It's also one of the most challenging things is getting them into class. But once they're there, there aren't even words
it's
to have.
It's priceless information, and it's reciprocal. It does come back. Then that person becomes a pillar of wisdom for the next mom, planting seeds that wouldn't otherwise have been there. It's a profession that keeps giving. It makes an impact. This is a once in a lifetime thing. No matter how many children you have, you never give birth to the same child once. You never have the same experience over and over again. They may be similar, but they're never the same. Yes, individually for each experience, you plant seeds that then transform and affect the trajectory of that journey. And I don't take that for granted. I don't take it lightly. I honor it. I love it. I love that the people that have passion for it, those are my people. I also want to say, going into a different little area with birth workers and childbirth educators, you mentioned not getting hired, and we are the most attractive when we are the most authentic. When we are real, when we give us. I learned this even more so during COVID when everything went virtual. I am a touchy-feely person. I like to be in your presence. I feel like I don't serve you well if I can't touch you, if I'm not here and I can't look at you in your face. But I noticed that I'm still giving me authentically, planting the same seeds, whether I'm with you in person or whether Kara, look at us. Really? Seriously, how many years later? And we've met one time in person, but it means absolutamente nada because I love you, girl. You know what I mean? I love your baby. I pray over your baby. I still remember your house. I love the plants, like all the things. I absolutely genuinely see you and care.
It is. When people say I can't connect over online, I have to be in person. Like, I get it. I like to be face to face too. Since COVID, I haven't been able to teach in person because of Finn. There's no childcare for her, but you can connect virtually and love someone thoroughly. And that's, I feel the same. So yeah, I get it.
I'm thankful for what we do.
So let's bring this around to 4th trimester, postpartum. We're really trying to prepare you for labor and birth. However, we also know that postpartum is forever. And since we have such a limited time with you, there are certain things that we want to impart for the preparation and what you're going to need long term for postpartum. What do you think is the number one thing that you help parents with for postpartum?
First things first, like you said, it's preparation. The best way to prepare for postpartum is to have an informed birth. Period. There is no better preparation than not being traumatized during your birth, not being prepared, being blindsided, feeling a certain type of way about the support being inadequate and not competent and not being seen, heard, feel, and having to carry that and a baby and a healing body and sleep deprivation and hormones dropping home. It is the best preparation. So first, protect your birth space. However that looks, protect that. That's the best. And then, just like you form a birth plan, form a postpartum plan. Get educated on what that looks like. There is a plan. Who's going to be at home with me? Who's not going to be at home? Do I really want a bunch of people? Do I want to entertain people? You might have a big family. You might feel comfortable with them. They might know what to do and stay out the way. But support postpartum is not just take the baby and tell mama to go lay down. So preparing for what that looks like, knowing that it is okay. to tell mom and grandpa and everybody that we're just going to have a couple days first, maybe a day or two to see what it is we need. We do want your support. I do love you, but can you please respect? I know you're excited about seeing the baby, but can you please respect that? I need about 48 hours to even let the dust settle from what happened. And if I do need you before then, can you give me the space in which I'll call you? Explaining that and being able to, and maybe even having an advocate to explain it. And that's another thing that as a doula, you're not my mama. I'll explain it to you respectfully, but I don't have the same burden she does. And I also know the importance of protecting that fourth trimester and explaining to dad, you might need to be the gatekeeper for that and what it looks like. So yes, preparing for birth, being informed, and then that transitional, how's it going to look like when I go home? So that I'm not carrying an invisible burden on top of having to learn and figure out this new normal for myself. How am I seen here? Not as the little girl to be taken care of, but how am I empowered into this new role of mother so that I can make decisions? What's going to drive me crazy in my home if it's not clean? What type of meals do I want? What is healthy for me? Is it going to stress me out if everybody's bringing me fast food or everything that's preserved and that's not the way that I eat? You know what I mean? Do I want a refrigerator full of food that's going bad? Do I want hands touching all over? Am I giving birth in the wintertime where sickness is high and everybody comes in? It may not be sickness, but that's going to stress me out. So even if your allergies are acting up, can you politely not come? Or even sip on your tea while you're here. There's certain things. Just knowing your borders, your standards, your boundaries, and having someone that can relay that competent support throughout the birth and postpartum period is important.
I 100% agree with you that having an empowered birth situation, whether it was vaginal, not vaginal, medicated, not medicated, that does set you up for postpartum. And which is one of the reasons that we talk about advocacy, finding your voice, going with your intuition. You need all of that for the postpartum time. You've never done it before, and you carry a lot of stories in there with you.
Think about the C-section mamas. Let's shed some light on that because everybody thinks vaginal birth, right? If I have a C-section, what do you mean empowered birth, this, that, and the other? The thing that I notice mothers that have C-sections, the area they need protection first, especially if they want to breastfeed, is lactation support while they're healing, right after baby's born, the education of it, the consistent encouragement. And there has to be a period of time where you don't have to worry about it. I'm coming down off of these medications, but I know I want this protected. I just need someone to get this baby to the boob and I don't want to worry about it. So honestly, it's beautiful when that mom is given a grace period, grace to learn, but not right after major surgery. No, you lay down any other time. We're telling mom to heal. Lay down. Don't worry about it. No, love on your baby. Kiss. I have the rest. Someone to protect that space. So sometimes, even for a mom that has a C-section, is this an area in which you don't want to have to struggle with? You want that transition to ease into learning. Okay, now that baby has a good life. Oh, this is how we do it. And as I feel I'm able or want to, then I will try to learn and I will do the things. But once I start feeling burdened, stressed out, and I'm not getting it, can you help? I tell my clients, don't feel ashamed to press that nurse's button every time you need to feed the baby while you're in the hospital. Don't feel inadequate. That is not your space. This is the learning curve. With mamas with C-sections, especially if they're trying to nurse, because sometimes your milk doesn't come in until a couple of days later. How do I navigate that? They're going to send me home and I wanted to breastfeed. I didn't even have the birth I wanted. Now I can't nurse and do the things that I want with my baby. How do I navigate that? So this is why preparation for postpartum, because so many don't get what they need and they have to try to navigate and not feel crazy because of the hormones, but then they have all these rushing thoughts of inadequacy, but they still got to figure it out. And then normal life has to, presume, and then they're entertaining.
A mom once called me and said she was so stressed out and she was crying and she'd had a cesarean and her in-laws were there holding the baby and she was vacuuming around the in-laws and they wanted to go out to dinner that night and they wanted, to be shown around the town. And she was devastated. And I'm like, you gotta say no. you should not be vacuuming. You just had major surgery, and those are things that we need to learn about ahead of time. There are so many good postpartum online courses. There are postpartum teachers. There are lactation consultants that can offer you information about what you really need if breastfeeding is your goal. Feeding in general is hard. So you need support no matter what. Latoya, I loved having you here today. And I know that there's probably one bit of advice or one little soapbox thing that you can tell us that is the most important thing that you want families to know in or out of your classroom, in or out of being with you as a doula. What is that one piece of advice that you would want families to take home?
The one thing that I would say is the most important, even though there's so many, is that you are more than equipped. This is a journey specifically for you, designed for you. There is support out there, information out there. The more information that you gain, and I do want to give this analogy. We hire a real estate agent to help us navigate the best home, the best school system, the best district. We hire and we look on Google. We do all this to get information to navigate certain terrain. Childbirth education helps you navigate the best providers, why you would want them, what area, what type of birth you want, whether you want a provider. So getting information, no matter what your journey looks like, is the best thing to help you realize to protect, one, yourself, your autonomy, but also to help you protect and ensure that I have my journey and a birth just doesn't happen to me. And for the support, information allows you not only to inhabit the birth space, but to become a competent part of that. The word competent is very important. Information allows you to be your full self in that space, to appreciate and have that birth become yours, and you confidently do it. And it transforms, it makes the biggest difference. So being informed, get supported, and then be confident because you got this.
I don't want to gloss over the piece you were going to talk about with doulas and bringing fear into the birth room or fear into their clients.
Yeah. You know how you get your training and then you get on the job training and then you really figure out how things work and you're like, what the crap? Okay. Being able to have a traumatic experience with a client, a loss or whatever may happen, reconcile that, and then meet that next client in the space they deserve. Clean slate. How do you manage that? Especially when it happens few days, apart. That is something that as birth workers, we need to also be open to support, be open to taking a moment for ourselves, evaluating whether or not we need some time, and have that girlfriend, that friend, that person that you can reach out to. And like you said, if you need to pray, if you need to take some time, go walking. But we do know as birth workers, everyone deserves their own space, but we realistically need to know that birth is different for everyone. And we need to prepare ourselves with information and support to respect the birth world as a full circle. It is life. It is loss. It is trauma. It is victory. It is things we understand and things that we don't. And it is to be respected. So as birth workers, we do have a burden that I do believe we need to continuously recognize and train how to deal with the tougher things. And I find when you believe that you were called to this field, to this mission, then everything about your journey in your own life has equipped you with gifts that add to any situation. And even if tears flow, cry with them. You know what I mean? Allow that. You don't have to put a certain persona on. Give you. And the more authentically, like I said, the more you give authentically, the more it's received, the more it makes an impact. So being confident in that, and not everyone looks the same. We don't all have the same fight. Carrie, I'm this kooky birth Christian nerd out here in Georgia, and I am proud of my journey. And I'm so thankful to God for allowing me to be a part of it and meet all the people that I do. But we all have individual fights, individual passions, and journeys. And if we can come together on birth respectively understanding that, Care, you can reach someone I can't. And I can reach people that you may not be able to. And that's why we are who we are, and we are passionate, but still part of the same body in a way, same purpose in a way. There's just, I respect what you're doing. Your gift will make room for you. And mine will do the same. So if a doula or a birth worker is in competition with anyone, can I say this loud? If you are in competition with anyone, you are doing it wrong.
You're hurting yourself. You're hurting others. It's a hard thing because it's kind of an entrepreneurial world, right? We're learning how to build our own business, and it's not a typical business because it's very spiritual in nature. It's very human based in nature. It is not, a t-shirt business. It's completely different than that. And yet we see all these people around us succeeding, and sometimes that's really intimidating. But, someone can be an amazing social media person and be a crappy doula. Like, that doesn't mean anything, right? And somebody might not post at all and be the most majestic person that you want to be around when it comes to birth and who you want in your birth space, but they're not good at social media. How do we lift each other up? How do we love each other? And how do we not bring that energy to the birth space? It's a challenge because I just don't even deal with it. When it comes my way, I go, you're not for me. And I love you, wish you well, but you're not for me. And we can't be pitted against each other. We have to find ways to build bridges. If we can't build it within ourselves, how are we going to build it with providers at a hospital?
Why I'm so drawn to you, and honestly, what the birth impact means in regards to networking is grown women coming together. Once again, the birth impact is not for everybody, because if you are this part of cancel culture, or you're part of this my way or the highway, you're wrong. I want to be able to look at you as a grown woman in the face, respectively, hear about who you are, how you think, what you believe in, what you fight for, whether I agree or not, and sit here and say, okay, I get it. All right. Even if I don't get it, I see you. And this is who I am. And if those parts of us never commingle, can never approach, but we meet together in birth. You are my sister in the birth world. Oh, we get each other here. This is our space. But we don't allow the outside influences of certain cultures to control the way we think of each other.
It's such a beautiful balance of learning and accepting and having compassion with each other, because we are all so different. Like, we are. And once we start bringing in cultures from other countries, we've all been raised different. We have different filters. Our parent background is different, right? But when we can hold the birth space in a very sacred, loving element, it really does bridge those gaps. And who's meant for you. Like attracts like. And it doesn't mean we have any less compassion for each other. We just might not work with them. But we all are here for the same reason. And I think that's why the birth impact works, because it's gathering like-minded and like-hearted individuals together. I'm going to put all of her links down below so that you can find her, especially if you're in the Georgia area. You are very lucky if you can travel to the Georgia area for any of the doula trainings that she offers. I have seen the reviews. I have talked to the women who've been trained by Latoya. I've seen the pictures on Instagram. She's pure magic. And I know you know that today by just listening to her. So thank you for coming, and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for joining us today. And remember, it's your body, your choice, and finding your voice is your power. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us in all the places, and go to birtheducationcenter.com for our blog and more online education classes. And we'll see you next week.